In the colorful town of McKenna, where every street echoed with laughter and music, Zuri often felt like a shadow in her own home. Her sisters were called beautiful, her brothers were praised for their charm, but Zuri was always the one people overlooked. When guests came over, her mother proudly introduced the others, while Zuri stood in the corner, pretending not to care. She was the one who took the family photos, never the one invited to be in them. Everyone said she was too simple, too quiet, too plain. But inside, Zuri carried a heart full of dreams no one cared to see. At night, she would sit by her window, watching the lights of McKenna flicker, imagining a world where she mattered. Sometimes she whispered to herself, "One day they'll see me." But the next morning, life went on as usual. Her name barely mentioned, her efforts unnoticed. Still, she never stopped hoping. Behind her gentle smile was a quiet fire, waiting for the right moment to rise. She didn't know it yet, but the same girl they ignored would one day become the name everyone in McKenna would remember. The sun shone brightly over McKenna that afternoon, painting the town in gold. It was the day of the big family reunion. Laughter, music, and the smell of delicious food filled the air. Everyone was excited, greeting one another with hugs and loud chatter. Zuri stood at her window for a long time before leaving home, staring at her reflection. She had spent hours getting ready, carefully tying her head wrap, choosing her best dress. A soft golden gown with tiny bead details she'd saved for months to buy. She smiled at herself, whispering, "Maybe today they'll see me." When she arrived, the compound was bursting with color. Her sisters sparkled in bright Ankara dresses, their jewelry glistening under the afternoon sun. Her brothers laughed loudly near the cars, showing off their new watches and shoes. Zuri walked in quietly, clutching her small handbag, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. Her mother gave her a quick nod, then turned to praise another daughter's outfit. Her aunt commented, "Ah, Zuri, you look fine," in that tone that meant not enough. Still, Zuri kept smiling, hoping that maybe by being kind and patient, she'd earn a little space in their love. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the family photo. The photographer set up his camera, arranging everyone into neat rows. Zuri stood at the back, waiting for her turn. She imagined herself standing proudly beside her family, part of something bigger, something warm. As laughter echoed around her, she tried to hide the nervous tremble in her hands. For once she wanted to belong, just to be seen even for a second. The air felt filled with possibility, like this could be the day her story changed. She didn't know what was coming next, but in her heart, she whispered a small prayer. "Please let them see me this time." As everyone gathered for the big family photo, Zuri finally felt a spark of happiness. The photographer lifted his camera, asking everyone to smile. For a moment, she imagined herself standing there, part of the picture, part of the family story. But before the shutter clicked, her aunt's sharp voice cut through the laughter. "Zuri, step aside," she said, her tone casual but cruel. "You'll ruin the picture." The words hit her like a slap. For a second she froze, thinking maybe she had misheard. But then her cousins started to giggle, covering their mouths, and someone whispered, "She doesn't fit in anyway." Zuri's heart pounded. Her throat tightened as she forced a small smile, pretending it didn't hurt. She stepped back slowly, her eyes burning, trying to hide the tears that threatened to fall. The photographer hesitated, glancing at her awkwardly, but no one said anything. Her mother looked away, pretending to fix her necklace. No one defended her. No one even noticed the quiet pain behind her smile. Zuri stood to the side, watching them laugh and pose together. A perfect family, as if she wasn't even there. The sound of the camera clicks felt like tiny knives in her chest. Each flash reminded her of her place, outside the frame, unseen, unwanted. She folded her arms tightly, trying to keep herself from breaking down. The laughter around her sounded distant now, echoing in a blur of colors and noise. She wanted to run, but her feet felt too heavy. When the photo session ended, she quietly slipped away, her tears finally escaping. No one called her name. No one noticed she was gone. As she walked away, her heart whispered a promise she didn't yet understand. One day they would remember this moment, the day they pushed her out of the picture that was never meant to define her. Zuri slipped away quietly while everyone was still laughing and taking selfies. No one noticed her leave. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and purple. As she walked down the dusty road toward home, The sounds of laughter and music from the reunion faded behind her, fading just like the hope she had carried all day. Her heart felt heavy, but her steps were steady. Each one echoed with a mix of sadness and strength. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she wiped them quickly, not wanting the world to see her cry. "It's okay," she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. "It's okay, Zuri. You're stronger than this." She passed the familiar houses, the little shops closing for the night, the children running home for dinner. Everything looked normal, but inside her, something had shifted. The pain she felt wasn't quiet anymore. It was waking something fierce and bright in her heart. When she reached home, she took off her head wrap and stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged, but there was a spark in her gaze she had never seen before. "They can't erase me," she whispered. "Not forever." She sat on her bed, hugging her knees, letting her thoughts swirl like the night wind outside. The rejection hurt deeply, but it also lit a fire inside her. For the first time, she realized she didn't need their approval to feel worthy. She didn't need a place in their photo to prove she belonged. What she needed was a chance to show the world the version of herself that no one had ever cared to see. That night, as the stars blinked softly over McKenna, Zuri made a silent promise: she would rise. One day they would look for her, and she would no longer be standing outside the frame. She would be the one the world couldn't look away from. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. Zuri kept herself busy, helping at a local charity center every weekend. It was a small place that helped underprivileged children with food, clothes, and school supplies. She loved spending time there because no one judged her. Everyone was equal, and kindness mattered more than looks. That Saturday, she was arranging donated clothes when a man walked in, tall and calm, with a camera hanging around his neck. He watched quietly as she helped a shy little girl find a dress that fit. "Excuse me," he said with a warm smile. "You have a very natural way of carrying yourself." Zuri looked up a little surprised. Compliments weren't something she was used to. "Oh, thank you," she said softly, brushing her hands against her skirt, unsure of what else to say. The man introduced himself. His name was Amadi, a creative director for a cultural fashion campaign that celebrated real African beauty and heritage. He explained that he was searching for new faces, people who carried grace and truth in their presence. Not just models but stories. He asked if she'd ever modeled before. Zuri laughed shyly and shook her head. "Me? No. I don't think I'm what people look for." Amadi smiled, studying her kind eyes. "You're exactly what people should look for," he said gently. "Beauty isn't about being seen by everyone. It's about making people feel something when they do." His words stayed with her even after he left his card and walked away. That night, she sat on her bed, turning the card over and over in her hands, her heart racing. For the first time in a long while, someone had noticed her, not for what she lacked but for what she already was. She didn't know where this meeting would lead, but deep down, she felt something powerful stirring. Maybe this was the beginning of the moment she had been waiting for all along. A few days later, Amadi called Zuri and invited her to a small photo shoot for his new cultural project. At first she thought it must be a mistake. "Me? Are you sure?" she asked over the phone, her voice trembling with disbelief. He laughed softly and said, "Yes, Zuri. I see something in you. Just come as you are." On the morning of the shoot, she woke up early, her stomach full of butterflies. She wore a simple yet elegant dress Amadi had chosen, a deep emerald green fabric with hand-woven patterns that reflected her heritage. When she arrived at the studio, her hands were shaking slightly. The bright lights, the cameras, the creative team, it all felt like another world. She kept thinking about that day at the family photo, when she'd been told to step aside. But this time no one was pushing her away. This time, everyone was waiting for her. "Relax, Zuri," Amadi said gently. "Just be yourself. Don't pose, just feel." She took a deep breath, lifted her chin slightly, and let the moment take her. The camera clicked, again and again, and slowly something inside her shifted. For the first time, she wasn't hiding behind others. She was the center. Her calmness, her natural smile, her soulful eyes, everything about her felt real and radiant. When Amadi showed her the photos, she gasped softly. She barely recognized herself. The girl in those pictures looked powerful, graceful, and unafraid. Everything she had always wanted to be. "See," Amadi said with a proud smile. That's the real you. The world just hasn't seen her yet. As she walked home that evening, Zuri couldn't stop smiling. She felt lighter, stronger. Like a hidden spark inside her had finally come alive. For the first time in her life she felt seen. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning of something far greater than she could ever imagine. A week after the photo shoot, Amadi posted a few of Zuri's pictures on social media with the caption, "True beauty doesn't need to shout, it simply shines." He didn't expect much, but by the next morning the internet was buzzing. People couldn't stop talking about the girl in green with the soft, soulful eyes. Her elegance felt different. Not forced, not loud, just real. Comments poured in from all over the country. Who is she? She looks like royalty. This is what authentic African beauty looks like. Zuri woke up to hundreds of notifications on her phone. Her friends were sending screenshots, tagging her, calling her name in excitement. She couldn't believe it. Her heart raced as she scrolled through the comments, tears filling her eyes. For years, she had been invisible. But now, strangers were celebrating the same face her family had ignored. It felt surreal, like the world had suddenly opened its eyes to see her. Within days, her photos were reposted by major fashion pages and cultural magazines. Local news stations started calling Amadi, asking about the mysterious girl from McKenna. Then came the offers, small brands first, then bigger ones. Designers wanted her to represent their lines. Photographers wanted to capture her natural beauty. Modeling agencies called, offering contracts. Zuri could hardly keep up. Her quiet life was suddenly full of interviews, photo sessions, and travel plans. Through it all, she stayed humble, still volunteering at the charity center whenever she could. She never forgot where it all began. A single act of kindness that led her to Amadi. Late one night, sitting on her bed with her phone glowing beside her, Zuri smiled softly. The same girl who had once been pushed out of a family photo was now being invited into the biggest pictures in the country. For the first time, she didn't just feel seen, she felt chosen.
In just a few months, Zuri's whole world turned around. The same girl who once hid in the shadows was now standing in front of cameras, lights, and cheering crowds. Every photo shoot brought new opportunities. Every campaign opened another door. Her photos were everywhere, on billboards, in glossy magazines, and across social media. People loved her not just for her beauty, but for her calm spirit, her confidence, and her story. She wasn't the typical model. She was real, raw, and deeply human. Whenever Zuri looked at those posters with her face on them, she felt both proud and amazed. Sometimes she still caught herself whispering, "Is this really me?" She remembered all the times she had been ignored, all the moments she'd felt invisible. And now, the world couldn't stop looking at her. Brands described her as the face of true African grace. Young girls started messaging her, saying how she gave them hope and courage to love themselves too. Despite her fame, Zuri stayed grounded. She still helped at the charity center, still smiled at everyone she met, still thanked Amadi every time for believing in her when no one else did. She used her growing platform to promote African culture and traditional beauty, wearing handcrafted beads, fabrics, and hairstyles that told stories of strength and heritage. She became more than just a model. She became a movement. Her family started seeing her on TV and in magazines, their reactions a mix of pride and guilt. They couldn't believe this was the same girl they had once pushed out of a photo. But Zuri didn't seek revenge. She was too busy becoming everything they once said she couldn't be. Her quiet grace had turned into power, her pain into purpose. And as she looked at herself in the mirror one evening, crown-like beads glimmering in her hair, she finally smiled without doubt. The girl who had once been unseen had now become a symbol of beauty that no one could ever ignore again.
One sunny morning, the town of McKenna buzzed with excitement. The new issue of Royal Essence magazine had just been released, the country's most popular fashion and lifestyle magazine. On the front cover was a breathtaking photo of Zuri, dressed in golden traditional attire, wearing a beaded crown that shimmered under soft light. The headline read, "Zuri Nwando, the face of true beauty." Her smile was calm, powerful, and unforgettable. When her family saw the magazine, the house went completely silent. Her mother froze, staring at the cover in disbelief. This can't be," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her father adjusted his glasses, looking closer as if his eyes were playing tricks on him. "That's Zuri. he finally said, his tone a mix of shock and pride. Her sisters exchanged uncomfortable glances while her aunt, the very one who had told her to step aside during the family photo, dropped her cup of tea. The same girl they had ignored, the one who had walked away with tears in her eyes, was now being celebrated across the country. People were calling her the symbol of real African grace, the kind of beauty that didn't depend on approval or attention. Her name was trending online. Billboards showed her face in major cities. Every TV host was talking about her rise. Neighbors came running to show her parents the magazine, congratulating them, saying, "You must be so proud." But her mother could only nod slowly, a mixture of pride, guilt, and awe washing over her. She remembered all the times Zuri had tried to be seen, all the small ways they had pushed her aside. Now the world saw what they never did. That night, her mother held the magazine close, staring at Zuri's picture under the lamplight. Tears filled her eyes, not of sadness but of deep regret. The daughter they once overlooked had become everything they ever wanted their children to be. And now everyone else could see it too. When Zuri returned to McKenna, the whole town came alive. It was the weekend of the Grand Cultural Festival, a celebration of heritage, beauty, and community. The air was filled with music, drums, and the smell of roasted maize and jollof rice. People gathered from nearby towns, dressed in bright traditional clothes, their faces glowing with excitement. But this year felt different, because everyone knew the star of the event was coming home. As Zuri's car pulled into the main square, the crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed, children waved flags, and elders smiled proudly. She stepped out gracefully, dressed in gold and coral beads that shimmered in the sunlight. Her gown was handcrafted with rich African fabric, each detail telling a story of culture and pride. The same road she once walked alone now echoed with chants of her name. "Zuri! Zuri!" people called, their voices full of love and admiration. Her family stood at the front of the crowd waiting. Her mother's eyes filled with tears as she watched her daughter walk toward them. Zuri's heart pounded, but this time she wasn't nervous. She felt calm, strong, and grounded. Each step she took carried the weight of everything she had overcome. She smiled at the people, not like a celebrity, but like someone finally coming home to her roots. When she reached the stage, the mayor handed her a microphone. The crowd went silent. "Thank you, McKenna," she said softly, her voice steady and warm. "I left this town feeling unseen. But today I stand here not to prove anyone wrong, but to remind every girl that your worth doesn't fade just because others don't see it." The crowd erupted in applause, and her words spread through social media within minutes. That night, fireworks lit up the sky as Zuri danced among her people. She wasn't just the girl from the magazine cover. She was a symbol of hope, strength, and grace. The same place where she had once been forgotten now celebrated her like royalty. Later that evening, as the festival came to an end, the organizers announced that they wanted to take an official family photo of McKenna's new cultural ambassador, Zuri. Her family was invited to join her on stage. For a moment, the atmosphere grew tense. Her parents and relatives gathered together, their faces unsure, their smiles stiff. Memories of the old family photo, the one where they had told her to step aside, hung silently in the air like an unspoken truth. Zuri stood a few feet away, dressed in her royal gold and coral beads, the same ones that had made the crowd cheer. The photographer cleared his throat and said kindly, "Miss Zuri, please stand in the center." The words sent a wave of emotion through everyone. Her aunt, the same one who had once whispered for her to move away, looked down quickly, her face flushed with guilt. Her sisters fidgeted with their clothes, unable to meet her eyes. As Zuri walked to the middle of the group, the crowd watched quietly. This time no one told her to move aside. No one laughed. The camera lights flashed as she stood tall, her calm smile glowing brighter than the jewelry she wore. Her presence filled the frame effortlessly, not because she tried to, but because she had finally become the heart of the picture. When the photographer showed them the shot, everyone stared in silence. Zuri's confidence, her grace, her peace, it all radiated through the image. Her aunt blinked back tears and whispered, "You belong there." Zuri turned to her with a gentle smile and said softly, "I always did." The crowd erupted into applause as her family finally embraced her. For the first time, she wasn't just in the family photo, she was the reason it mattered. That picture would later hang in their home, not as a reminder of the past, but as proof that sometimes, The one you push away becomes the light that brings everyone back together. As the music faded and the lights dimmed, Zuri's family gathered around her quietly. The joy in the air had turned soft and emotional. Her mother stood in front of her, her hands trembling as she reached out to touch Zuri's arm. For a long moment she couldn't speak. Her eyes were filled with tears that had waited for years to fall. Finally, in a shaky voice, she whispered, "We didn't see you, my child. We were so blinded by what we thought was perfect that we forgot the beauty that was right in front of us." Zuri felt her chest tighten. The pain of old memories, the laughter, the rejection, the loneliness, flickered in her heart. But standing there now, dressed in her crown and glowing with peace, she didn't feel bitterness. She smiled gently, wiping the tears from her mother's face. "It's okay, Mama," she said softly, her voice steady and warm. "Sometimes rejection prepares you for a bigger stage." Her mother broke down, pulling her into a tight embrace. Her sisters joined, their eyes wet with regret. Even her aunt, who had once told her to step aside, stood behind them, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Forgive me, Zuri." Zuri turned to her, her smile calm but full of grace. "I already did," she said. "Long ago." For the first time in years they held one another without pride, without judgment, just love. Around them people watched in silence, moved by the sight of forgiveness so pure and beautiful. Cameras flashed, but this time Zuri didn't care about the photos. This moment wasn't for fame. It was for healing. As they stood together under the golden festival lights, Zuri realized she had received something far more powerful than success: peace. Her heart finally felt full. The girl who once walked away in tears was now standing tall, not just as a symbol of strength, but as a reminder that love and forgiveness can turn even the deepest wounds into something beautiful. The night sky over McKenna glowed with lanterns and fireworks as the festival reached its grand finale. Music filled the air, and the crowd gathered around the main stage, their faces lit with excitement. Drums beat softly as the announcer's voice echoed through the microphone, calling Zuri's name. The people roared with cheers that rolled through the town like thunder. Zuri took a deep breath and walked toward the stage, her heart pounding, her golden gown flowing behind her like a river of light. As she stepped up, elders from the Cultural Council waited with warm smiles. One of them held a beautifully crafted crown made of coral beads and gold. The announcer's voice rang out, "Tonight we honor a woman who reminded us that true beauty is not about perfection. It is about strength, dignity, and heart. We crown Zuri Nwando as the cultural ambassador of McKenna." The elder placed the crown gently on her head, and the crowd exploded into applause. People began chanting her name. "Zuri! Zuri!" their voices full of love and pride. Some were crying, others waving flags with her image printed on them. The same community that once overlooked her was now celebrating her as their pride, their daughter, their queen. Zuri's eyes shimmered with tears as she looked out at the sea of faces. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who once walked home alone, feeling small and unseen. And now here she was, standing before the whole town, wearing a crown not made of gold alone, but of every tear she had ever shed. When she spoke, her voice was soft but strong. "This crown," she said, touching it gently, "is not just for me. It's for every girl who was ever told she wasn't enough. You are. You always were." The crowd erupted again, clapping and shouting her name. Under the night sky, Zuri smiled through her tears. The girl they had once ignored had become the heartbeat of McKenna, a queen not born from privilege, but from pain, patience, and undeniable grace. Zuri's story spread across the country like wildfire. Within weeks, newspapers, magazines, and talk shows were all talking about her. The girl from McKenna who had once been pushed out of her family photo, and now wore a crown before the whole nation. Her face appeared on TV screens and billboards with words like strength, grace, and true beauty. Everyone wanted to know her story, not just because she was famous but because she represented something real. Schools began inviting her to speak to students, and whenever she walked onto a stage, the room went silent. Children listened with wide eyes as she told them about rejection, about pain, and about how she learned to love herself when no one else did. She spoke in simple words, but her message was powerful. You don't need anyone's approval to shine. The world will see you when it's your time. Just don't stop believing in yourself. Her story touched people from all walks of life, young girls, mothers, even men who realized how often they overlooked quiet strength. She became a voice for self-worth, culture, and resilience. Every interview she gave carried warmth and humility. She didn't brag about her fame. She spoke about her journey, her roots, and how the love she once searched for in others, she found within herself. Zuri also used her platform to create change. She started a foundation that supported young girls from small towns, helping them gain confidence and opportunities in fashion, art, and education. "If I can rise, so can you," she often said. Her humility made people love her even more. Everywhere she went, people called her the symbol of strength. But Zuri never saw herself as a symbol. She saw herself as a reminder that pain doesn't define you, rejection doesn't end you, and even the quietest heart can one day echo across the world. Her light, once hidden, now guided millions to believe in their own worth. Across the country, Zuri's story became a legend, told in schools, on radio shows, and shared endlessly online. People said with awe, "They kicked her out of the family photo, but she walked back with a crown." Her name became more than just a name. It became a message of hope, a symbol of strength for anyone who had ever been overlooked or told they weren't enough. Everywhere, people began to see her as proof that life has its own perfect timing. "Rejection is not the end," they'd say. "It's just redirection." Zuri's journey showed that sometimes the doors that close on us are the very ones that push us toward something greater. Videos of her humble interviews went viral. Her calm voice, her warm smile, her words filled with quiet wisdom. "Don't let anyone make you feel small," she once said in an interview. "Even when they turn you away, keep walking. One day your crown will find you." In marketplaces, in schools, in busy city streets, people spoke her story with pride. Artists painted her image. Young girls braided their hair like hers. And families reminded their children to never mock or exclude anyone. Zuri had turned her pain into power, her silence into song. She didn't just walk back into that family photo. She walked into the heart of a nation. And there her story lived on forever, shining like a crown that would never fade.